Southern California, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Today we have ourselves quite a show, as we have a lot to get into in the world of Southern California sports, such as the Rams almost beating the Lions, but almost is not going to cut it. The season is unfortunately over for the Rams as they lost to former Rams Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions, but it was a valiant effort. And how about USC women's basketball handing UCLA its first loss of the season? The women of Troy are looking up, while the Lady Bruins, it's only one loss, as long as they don't let it stack up. And the Lakers are surprisingly doing good. They have back-to-back quality wins over the Thunder and Mavericks. Can they actually continue to rise up, or is this just a mirage? And USC football got themselves a new defensive line coordinator. Who is this new defensive line coach? Who is going to impact this position? And can he actually change USC football? All that and more here on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome all to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Thursday afternoon, Thursday morning, Thursday evening, Thursday wherever you are listening from. Either way, if you made your way into episode 164 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, without any further delay, let us begin. But first and foremost, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show would not be where it's at without IE Sports Radio providing the platform on Spreaker. Please do follow IE Sports Radio on several different social media platforms such as X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, and on TikTok. We also have a Facebook page for those that still use that, as all you just gotta do is like us, and then that's how you're able to follow us on Facebook. And we also have a website, www.iesportsradio.com, for your latest sports news, blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month, page dedicated to each podcast, such as the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, our community forum, and our merchandise shop. For the last 9 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel, which is what I'm going to be doing tomorrow and Saturday, to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all of that sports. A huge shout out to our sponsor, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, the single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, it's low in sugar and high in protein. This is some of the best jerky you can get your hands on, and all you have to do is visit www.planetjerky.net and place your order. And prices are slashed for the time being, so definitely get the Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky while it is cheaper than the normal price. And if you buy orders of $50 or more, you will get the order for free! Once again, a huge shout out to our sponsor, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet. And the way you can follow the SoCal Supreme Sports Show on social media is on X, formerly known as Twitter, at SoCal Show IESR. And you can follow me, Teran Rodriguez, on X, which is where I'm mainly active, at Teran Rodriguez 1. And without any further delay, let us begin, as the chat room is starting to get a little lively. Larry B says, T-Rod! And Ralph Cleese is saying, let's Teran, good afternoon. Let's go. I feel a great show coming up. I hope we get a great show. And Adam Karnick says, good afternoon, Teran. He says, the Bears are going to interview USC offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury for the same role. Good move. I'll get into that a little bit later. But right now we have to discuss the Rams just because that was kind of the big headline of the weekend for SoCal Sports. And it was also kind of the match of the weekend or the game of the weekend in terms of the NFL wildcard round. So the Rams had the distinct honor of playing former Los Angeles Ram Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions. It was Detroit's first home game in Ford Field since ever. And obviously the stakes were high. Early on, it looked like the Rams just did not show up defensively. Their defense was getting shredded from left to right, and I was extremely concerned. I knew the Rams' defense was going to be the biggest weakness for their team just because the Rams' defense is so young, and what didn't make matters better was that Jordan Fuller did not play. So that's already half of the experienced players that played from that Super Bowl match or Super Bowl game from a couple of seasons ago. So the Rams basically were at a big distinct disadvantage. I mean, they had Ernest Jones, but Jordan Fuller and Aaron Donald were the last two on that Super Bowl team on that defense. So the Rams fell behind 14-3. It was looking like it was going to be a long game as Jared Goff was not holding anything back. He was perfect through that first quarter in terms of his passing. And then Matthew Stafford started to get together. I will also just say I feel bad for Matthew Stafford just because Lions fans booed him when he came in. But unfortunately, he's the enemy, and sadly, it is what it is. Now, I'm sure the Lions will be able to pay tribute to Matthew Stafford next year, but unfortunately, next year is going to have to wait for August, if not maybe September. Most likely September. But the Rams started to get it together. Their offense started to wake up a little. Matthew Stafford was hitting Puka Nacua with some big plays, and Puka did score a touchdown. And the only problem was that the defense just could not answer the bell, and it really put a lot of pressure on the offense. But fortunately for the Rams, they had another touchdown from Tutu Atwell from Matthew Stafford. And the Rams only went into halftime down 21-17. And I was very hopeful because if the Rams just made the adjustments defensively, they could, hence the word could, possibly get within striking distance of the Lions. After a Michael Badgley field goal from 54 yards out, having to say Michael Badgley's name on another team just sickens me because he couldn't hit from 54 when he was with the Chargers, but I digress. The Rams were able to respond with a score, but it was a field goal from 27 yards out. And then the fourth quarter, the Rams got another field goal to get within one at 24-23. But on the Rams' last drive of the game, they just could not convert on third down. And they made the questionable decision to punt. Now, I don't know if this was the best decision just because the defense was not really stopping a whole lot. Yes, they almost shut out the Lions in the second half, but that Lions offense was eventually going to bust that door down. And eventually the Lions got the first down that they needed, and eventually the Lions wound up winning 24-23, and they celebrated the Lions' first playoff win since 1991. And I feel bad for Matthew Stafford and the Lions. I mainly feel bad for Stafford, but I'm happy for Jared Goff. I'm happy for Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is a SoCal native, having played for USC and Mater Dei. I'm happy for the Lions, and they've waited a long time for this. And at least, I will say this, I posted this on X. I said the Rams were the best loser of the wild card round. Now, I know that's no moral victories and whatnot, but still, the Rams gave it their all against the Lions. Most teams, I think, would have maybe crumbled and lost to the Lions. And some were saying that the Seahawks should have won and they could have beaten the Lions. It's like, no. The Lions would have trounced the Seahawks. Like, come on. I've seen that from a few Seahawks fans that I follow. But I digress. But the Rams couldn't have played that any better. The time of possession was split. They almost had as many first downs as the Lions. They had more total yards than the Lions, and they didn't turn the ball over once. And unfortunately, the defense just kind of was a little bit of a liability. I'm not trying to say the defense was bad because it improved in that second half. But the problem is that they just kept allowing big play after big play, and eventually when they got that first down, that was pretty much GG. So unfortunately and something I will also question is the Rams coach Sean McVay took his timeouts way too early in the second half. Obviously, they needed to get right for Matthew Stafford and the entire offense, but unfortunately, not having those timeouts really hurt, especially when you're taking them in the first early part of the third quarter, and then you take one in the midway through the fourth quarter, and you're only left with one, and the Lions are on their final drive to basically ice the game, and unfortunately, they just only had one timeout remaining, and not even a 2-minute warning could save the Rams. So, all in all, for the Rams, it was a little tough, and it was a little bit of an uphill climb. I kind of still think that the Rams should not have punted and maybe put the ball in Jared Goff's hands. Yes, pin the Lions deep, but you gotta have faith in your quarterback, and all you need is a field goal. You're only down one, and if you can get the ball to Puka or Cooper Kupp, I totally understand. Now, there was a questionable holding call / pass interference call / unnecessary roughness on a defenseless player call that was missed on Puka Nacua on that missed third down opportunity on the Rams' final drive. But I will say, you don't want to blame the refs. Missed calls happen in all sports. I mean, look at what happened in the 2019 playoffs when the Rams faced the New Orleans Saints. Everyone and their mom still remembers that, and it's still very funny to the day where there was that missed pass interference call, especially when it was like helmet to helmet. Also the Rams were kind of gifted a little bit of a penalty early in the quarter. They jumped offsides, but apparently the refs saw a twitch from the Lions. And unfortunately, they called full start on the Lions, and Lions fans were displeased. But at the end of the day, the Lions were able to get the job done, and unfortunately for the Rams, they just could not win in Matthew Stafford's return. But I will give Matthew Stafford credit. He played despite being in a lot of pain. The dude took massive hits, and unfortunately, the run game just was not the same. Now, Kyren Williams did get hurt in the later stages of the game, and I kind of wonder what would have happened if Kyren Williams did not get hurt. He hurt his hand, and that was kind of a big loss because he's kind of their big running back one guy, their big first down running back guy. I mean, nothing against Ronnie Rivers, no relation to Phillip Rivers, but Kyren Williams was the guy that had a monstrous season, and if you could develop the run, you're basically in good shape. But unfortunately for the Rams, they just could not develop a good run game. So for the Rams, they came so close to winning on the road and advancing to the divisional round, but it was no avail. And what sucks is that if the Rams had won, they would have taken on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa Bay, because the Cowboys unfortunately lost to the Packers, and the Packers will be playing the Niners, and now it's going to be Lions hosting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Something else that kind of happened, which I don't know if it truly impacted, but Tyler Higbee tore his ACL against the Lions, and this was kind of a Bush League move from Kirby Joseph. Tyler Higbee looked like he was about to catch the ball, but then Kirby Joseph just shot straight out of a cannon right on the lower legs of Tyler Higbee, and then Higbee just couldn't hold on to the ball, and then Higbee eventually tore his ACL, and that's got to sting, and I feel bad for him. I mean, the dude basically sacrificed himself to almost make a great catch, but sadly, the dude just tore his ACL, and now he could be on the PUP list for next season, and I feel horrible for him. Like, you basically almost make an amazing catch only to get yourself flipped up, and he not only tore his ACL, but Kirby Joseph's low hit kind of had Tyler Higbee's helmet hit the ground. And if you see the replay, you got to see that it was a very dirty hit. I mean, obviously you want to hit as clean as possible, but that was insanely dirty and cheap by Kirby Joseph. And shame on him for basically making that move. And this is something you'd want to take out from the NFL. You want to take out low hits and season-ending injuries and basically crucial plays. I know football is a very physical game, but that was a little cheap and dirty, in my opinion. But I digress. But I'm happy for the Lions fans. I'm happy for the Lions. It took them so long to get a playoff win, over 30 years since they last won a playoff game before beating the Rams. And, of course, it had to be against Matthew Stafford and the Rams. But I am very proud of the Rams, honestly, as someone who temporarily cheered for the Rams just because the Chargers sucked eggs. I will say I'm very proud of how the Rams performed, especially on the road against a very talented team. Unfortunately, they just made they were one or two plays away from possibly taking the lead, whether it's by a touchdown or a field goal. I mean, even if they made the field goal, I could still see the Lions going down the field with all of their timeouts and getting the eventual game winner. And, that would be a sight for sore eyes if you're a Chargers fan, seeing Michael Badgley boot the game winner for the Lions. But it is what it is. And the Rams had a fantastic season. Remember, this is a Rams team that basically had zero expectations. No one expected them to make the playoffs. Some were even saying that the Rams were probably going to finish last in the NFC West, which I found totally illogical. At the very least, they were going to finish no lower than third. And I had them picked to finish second, which actually came true. Woohoo! But the Rams have a bright future ahead of them. Matthew Stafford's going to be back. Aaron Donald's going to be back, which is awesome. Now the big question is, who do the Rams draft? They have the 19th pick, which is actually the best case scenario if you're a playoff team, because 7 teams from each conference made the playoffs, and the Rams fortunately got the 19th pick based on tiebreakers and having worse records than the teams that lost, and based on losing tiebreakers to certain teams, aka Pittsburgh. So the Rams aren't in a bad situation. 19th is pretty good for a team that made the playoffs, wasn't expected to make the playoffs, and lost in the first round. So the big question is, who did the Rams draft in the first round? They actually do have a first round pick, believe it or not. So I'm thinking maybe, hence the word maybe, they draft a cornerback. I feel drafting a corner would be great because ever since Jalen Ramsey departed for Miami, the cornerback room hasn't really been the best for the Rams, and it's unfortunate, but this is why you got to rebuild in terms of the draft and in terms of everything. Look at what they did with Puka Nacua and Kyron Williams. Both of them were 5th rounders in their respectful draft, and now they're key contributors to the Rams. And they can only go up because those players that I just mentioned, they're just in their first and second year, with Puka in his first year. Oh, also, Puka Nacua broke the single-game receiving yards record for the playoffs. He had 181 receiving yards, and he had 9 receptions, and he had 1 touchdown, which I think the previous record was DK Metcalf having 164 receiving yards. So the fact that Puka basically broke that record is quite phenomenal, and he's making a huge case for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Now, they might just give it to CJ Stroud just because Stroud guided the Houston Texans to a playoff win. But it would be so great if Puka Nacua won. This is kind of the situation where it was back in 2020-2021 where Justin Herbert won Offensive Rookie of the Year, but everyone was thinking Justin Jefferson should win it. But Justin Jefferson did not have more Offensive Rookie of the Weeks and Rookies of the Month than Justin Herbert. So, and also Justin Herbert broke more records than Justin Jefferson. So this is kind of going to be an interesting situation for Puka Nacua. But you have to remember, Puka was a 5th round pick, and then CJ Stroud was the number 2 pick. Everyone obviously had high hopes for CJ Stroud, but for Puka, I don't think anyone could have predicted this. And you got to remember, a lot of teams passed on him in terms of the draft. And fortunately for the Rams, they took a chance on him, and they made him the wide receiver 1 when Cooper Kupp was out, and now he's with the wide receiver 2, and that's no problem because it's pick your poison. You leave Kupp open, you basically have to deal with Puka. You leave Puka open, or you leave, or if you cover if you cover Kupp, then you get Puka. If you cover Puka, you get Kupp. Though I will say Cooper Kupp only had 27 receiving yards, which could have been a whole lot better. And Cooper Kupp didn't have the greatest game when players like Davis Allen, Ronnie Rivers, Tutu Atwell, and Demarcus Robinson all out receiving yarded him. But it's all good. So, all in all, for the Rams, it was a fun season, but the season is unfortunately over. But it is brighter days ahead for them, especially since Matthew Stafford and Aaron Donald are slated to come back. And I hope the Rams, for their sake, make it back to the playoffs. But it's going to be a whole big question marks full of what will the Rams do in terms of who are they going to draft, who are they going to sign, who are they going to trade, who are they going to bring back, who are they going to let go, all that sort of thing. Speaking of people that have been let go and people that are basically possibly on the way out, Raheem Morris, the defensive coordinator for the Rams, has some interviews with other teams, and I think he has one interview with the Chargers, or he had one interview with the Chargers. Nope, he did not. But I will say, if Raheem Morris gets hired as a head coach, I wish him the best, and I hope he does great things for whoever he coaches for. He's been a fantastic defensive coordinator for the Rams, and honestly, I hope he gets his chance. But if he does stay as the Rams defensive coordinator, then I look forward to seeing him be brought back, because he helped lead a young defense to the playoffs, and that young defense answered the bell. So we'll see. Ralph says, I was rooting hard for the Rams this game. Too bad they couldn't pull it out. Yeah, it was tough. When you have a young defense and when you have one guy returning from your Super Bowl team, and then you have a bunch of other guys who don't really have much playoff experience, it's going to be so tough to win games like that. But I have to give it up to the Rams. They really showed up in that game. Unfortunately, they just could not pull it out offensively in the second half. And that was the problem. The offense just was nowhere to be found in the second half. Every time they got into the red zone, 3 points. And as my buddy Pete Garofalo, Sports Radio Hall of Famer, would say, you need to win with touchdowns, not with field goals. And if that's a bad impersonation of Pete, I apologize. So Raheem Morris is possibly going to get interviewed by coaches, but there's already one coach from the Rams that is already out the door already, and he's moved on to something big, and that is actually Eric Henderson. And someone, I think this was from Sean McVay. He said, we love Eric Henderson and think the world of him. So Eric Henderson has taken another job elsewhere outside of the Rams. Keep in mind, Eric Henderson was the 2022 NFL Defensive Line Coach of the Year, and that was the same year that the Rams won the Super Bowl. So you got to throw that in there. But Eric Henderson has a new job as he is now at, can we get a drum roll, please? Eric Henderson is now the new co-defensive coordinator, run game coordinator, and defensive line coach for the USC football team. Yeah, co-defensive coordinator, run game coordinator, and defensive line coach. That is quite a bit. And again, Eric Henderson is a great hire. He has experience winning a Super Bowl. He was named the defensive line coach of the year. And again, he helped take that young Rams defense to the playoffs. And if he could do that with that young defense, who knows what they could do with USC's defense, because it certainly can't get much worse for USC's defense. USC's defense was horrible. Now they got D'Anton Lynn, and they have Eric Henderson. That's going to be very fun. And I really hope USC can develop their defensive guys, because if they can't, then I don't know what to really say for USC. Their defense can't be cured if that is the case. But I'm very confident with Eric Henderson and D'Anton Lynn, the son of former Chargers coach Anthony Lynn. So I'm very confident to see what the USC football team can do. And I really like this signing. I really think that USC can build off this. So hopefully, USC can basically build a contender with their defense. And hopefully it doesn't be as bad as Alex Grinch's defense that he called. All right, but that's enough for the Rams. We'll have more Rams news in the offseason once the offseason is in full swing. Right now, we're still waiting for the playoffs to end just because, unfortunately, the Rams just couldn't get to the divisional round. But it's all good because, again, the future looks bright for them. Now for the Chargers. So, again, Chargers are in full offseason mode. They are probably going to look at who they're going to draft. I think if Marvin Harrison Jr. falls to them, which probably is not going to be the case, they draft him, no questions asked. Now, I wonder who else they'll draft, who else they could draft outside of Marvin Harrison Jr. Obviously, you have Brock Bowers, the tight end, which I think can be definitely the best. I think that's the most logical choice. You need Brock Bowers just because I don't know what the status is on Gerald Everett's contract. I think it's almost up. And Donald Parham isn't moving the needle in terms of the Chargers receiving core, in terms of their offense. But Brock Bowers can definitely move the needle and then some. Then if they don't like Brock Bowers, they can always draft Malik Neighbors. I've been saying Gabe Neighbors, but that's the former fullback from the Chargers. But now Malik Neighbors, the talented wide receiver out of LSU, he is a possibility, and I would totally not mind the Chargers drafting him. And the Chargers could also go O-line, as they have the tackle from Penn State. It's like Olu Oshafani or something of that sort. I'm not entirely certain of that name. It's probably a much tougher name just because it really... I'm not even going to probably try to pronounce it, but all in all, that's probably a target for the Chargers. I would like to see them draft an offensive line, which if they do, cool. But if they don't, then so be it. But I am excited to see what the Chargers can do in terms of the draft. I think the options are so all over the place for them, and I definitely think that the sky's the limit on who they should draft. And if they do, then cool. I'd be happy if they draft someone of that excaliber, because you got to keep your quarterback clean, because this is ridiculous seeing Justin Herbert getting sacked each and every game. This is really frustrating, and I can't take it. So drafting an offensive lineman would not be bad, especially when you have other good offensive linemen. I hope Zion Johnson, their draft pick from a couple seasons ago, can expand, because I thought he wasn't that great. But then you also have Rashawn Slater, who is healthy for the most part. Corey Linsley, obviously losing him to retirement sucks, but the Chargers can definitely shore that up in terms of like free agency. And some are saying the Chargers should draft an edge rusher or a cornerback. I mean, corners would make sense just because that J.C. Jackson signing. But I think Brock Bowers can definitely move the needle. I mean, nobody really has the best cornerbacks in the game, according to Colin Cowherd. Yeah, I know, it's the wrong person to quote, but hey, I think it's definitely doable for the Chargers. I think they can get a quality cornerback in the second round, and then they can get Brock Bowers Brock Bowers or Malik Neighbors, because if they get them, then they are in good shape. And I'm trying to see any possible mock drafts. And any mock draft I see would be great. And yeah, according to All Sports Culture, this has the Chargers selecting Malik Neighbors, and then Brock Bowers falls to the Chicago Bears. That'd be but they have Cole Kmet, unless they don't bring back Cole Kmet. And Olu Fashanu is the tackle for Penn State. And you also have Joe Alt, the offensive tackle for Notre Dame. I wouldn't be surprised if the Chargers went Notre Dame in the first round, just because that's kind of been their MO with drafting Notre Dame players such as Alohi Gilman. But all in all, for the Chargers, it's a long off season, and I can't wait for them to actually, make their decisions and whatnot. Because I hope they make the correct decisions, and as I put in the chat or in the description, will they make the correct decisions in the offseason? My hope is yes, because there are a lot of question marks that they have to address in terms of who they should be drafting and who they should be hiring possibly. And speaking of their hires, their hiring list, according to, in courtesy of Guilty as Charged, the official podcast of the Los Angeles Chargers, they have interviewed the following coaches: Giff Smith, their interim coach following Brandon Staley's departure; Kellen Moore, their offensive coordinator; Patrick Graham; Steve Wilkes; Leslie Frazier, I think he's the defensive coordinator for the Bills, not entirely sure, but I have heard of Leslie Frazier's name a lot; Mike McDonald; Todd Monken; Brian Callahan, the offensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals; and Jim Harbaugh. Yes, the Chargers have interviewed Jim Harbaugh. I have heard murmurs that the Chargers might hire him as early as today. The Chargers also interviewed today David Shaw. Now that is interesting right there. David Shaw is not necessarily bad per se. He had success at Stanford. Unfortunately, he just kept declining. But I would not mind seeing David Shaw possibly get the job. But college coaches coaching at the NFL level are a whole different beast. You saw what happened with Urban Meyer and how that practically blew up in the Jacksonville Jaguars' face. So you have that right there. But I wish he could have been hired at San Diego State. But David Shaw wouldn't be a bad hire. I just think that college coach to the NFL is a little... But it's very encouraging to see the Chargers interviewing Jim Harbaugh, and hopefully for the Chargers' sake, they will definitely make that decision to hire him. Now, another coach that they have interviewed, or they plan on interviewing, is Mike Vrabel, as he actually is planning on interviewing for the Chargers job as well. As according to Pat McAfee, Mike Vrabel is interviewing with the Los Angeles Chargers for their head coaching job. Now, I would not mind that, but Mike Vrabel, obviously, he kind of had a falling out with the Tennessee Titans, but he is that type of hard-nosed coach that wants to instill a winning culture. And remember, he comes from the New England Patriots, which obviously he had success with as a player, and he had success with the Tennessee Titans. If you remember, the Titans were the 6th seed back in the 2020 playoffs, where the Titans eventually went to the AFC Championship only to get one-upped by the Kansas City Chiefs, which... Bleh. And also, this was according to Tom Pelissero. Mike Vrabel is in LA today to interview for the Chargers head coach, per sources. And Mike Vrabel went 54-45 with 3 playoff trips in 6 seasons with the Titans. And remember, the Titans got the number 1 seed a couple seasons ago in the playoffs, only to succumb to the Cincinnati Bengals, which obviously sucks. But remember, the Titans were kind of the most fraudulent 1 seed out there, just because their quarterback was Ryan Tannehill, and everyone knew the offense revolved around Derrick Henry. So, it is what it is. But that's just for the coaches. I need to address the GM possibility. So, the Chargers have interviewed for GM JoJo Wooden, Brandon Brown, Joe Hortiz, Ian Cunningham, Terrence Gray, Jeff Ireland, and Ed Dodds. Now, Ed Dodds is the one that kind of strikes me as interesting just because he comes from the Colts. I think he's the assistant GM for the Colts at the moment. I am wondering if the Chargers hire Ed Dodds just because their previous GM, Tom Telesco, was a former GM for the Indianapolis Colts, and he wound up winning a Super Bowl. I even got to see Tom Telesco's championship rings with back when I'm just going to say this right now. I went to the Telesco's house because his son plays football for Corona Del Mar High. And this kind of makes me wonder, if Telesco gets a job elsewhere, does he move from Corona Del Mar? Because there's another Telesco kid in the family, and that's Nick Telesco. So Time will tell. But we're not talking about Tom Telesco. We're talking about the GMs. JoJo Wooden was the interim GM for the Chargers, and basically these are the others that the Chargers have interviewed, which, so be it. I would not mind who they get. Unfortunately, the Washington Commanders hired the assistant GM from the San Francisco 49ers, which unfortunately makes me sad face, but it is what it is, and I hope for the sake of anything holy, the Chargers make the correct decision of hiring the correct general manager. Because if the Chargers don't, then they're going to be stuck in a hamster wheel of mediocrity, and we can't have that. Or Chargers fans cannot have that, and the Chargers just can't have that entirely. So we'll see what happens going forward. And Patty Bax pops into the chat room. She says, "Hi, I'm working right now, but I was just able to log in and will listen as much as I can. I'm sure the show is going great so far, and I'm hoping I can catch the dum-dums of the week." Yes, hopefully so, Patty. All right, but that's going to do it for the Chargers portion of the show. So Adam Karnick actually asked something. He says, the Bears are going to interview USC offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury for the same role. Good move? Now, that is so dependent. He's not going to be a head coach. I think he works well as an offensive coordinator. He had success with Patrick Mahomes back when he was at Texas A&M. I don't know how he got to become the head coach for the Arizona Cardinals, but he had some success with Caleb Williams in USC, albeit the defense was a complete liability, but you could say that for the Rams and Chargers. Anyway, so to answer your question, I think this is a solid move. The only thing that's missing in terms of that package is Patrick Mahomes, but I don't want to bring up that for Bears fans. So to answer Adam's question, yes, I think it's a good move, as long as he's the offensive coordinator and not the coach. Because if they put him as head coach, they're all but screwed. What I also want to know is, why are the Bears keeping Matt Eberflus? Why? That's what I want to know. But that is going to do it for the football portion of this show, and I'll definitely have more updates for the Chargers in terms of their head coach. They're contrary to what everyone wants to say, saying, "Oh, the Chargers' head coaching position is not all that great." Well, it kind of is, just because they have the roster. It's just that the AFC is getting better, and the Chargers just need a winning culture, man. And heck, I would also not mind seeing Pete Carroll. Even Richard Sherman said on X, saying the Chargers need to hire Pete Carroll as their head coach, and he instills a winning culture, or something along those lines. And yeah, here's the post from Richard Sherman. It says, "Pete to the Chargers is a match that needs to happen. Pete Carroll would change the culture and put people in the seats than ever before." And I think that would be a great move, just because, and he's not just saying that because Pete Carroll was his head coach, but Pete Carroll is a Southern California guy. He coached USC to a national championship. He coached USC to a national championship, and then he coached the Seattle Seahawks to a Super Bowl, and he is just a winning culture guy. The dude also had a winning record with the Seahawks this past season, and that was with Geno Smith. And they made the playoffs with Geno Smith. So I would imagine him being paired up with Justin Herbert. I think that would basically be a match made in heaven for the Chargers, and it would instill a winning culture. And I could definitely see it happening. I'm surprised the Chargers don't want to interview him. I get it, he's up there in age, but so is Bill Belichick, and the Falcons are going to interview him twice. And I wouldn't be surprised if they asked, what was the secret to coming back from a 28-3 deficit? Sorry, Falcons fans. All right, but that is basically that right there for the Chargers. Now let's jump on over to some college basketball, as we basically have USC and UCLA straight up struggling. Except for UCLA, they're actually doing better. I did not think that they would actually be on the up and up, as yesterday they took down Arizona State 68-66. It was actually looking quite bad for the Bruins, as they actually trailed by as many as 15. And I was looking at the score, I was like, oh, this is another loss for UCLA. But there was a point in the game where there was a double technical on like UCLA and Arizona State, and then I think one player on Arizona State got ejected, and UCLA also won in front of 10,000, a little over 10,000 fans, which I think is pretty cool. Anyway, so UCLA was led by Lazar Stefanovic, who had 18 points, which I've never even heard of him, but this is kind of the rebuilding side of the UCLA Bruins. Sebastian Mack at 11 points in the starting lineup, while Brandon Williams, a freshman guard, added 13 points for UCLA. So that's a solid win right there. Arizona State is big time right there, and apparently that's a costly loss for Arizona State. It's actually Arizona State's first home loss of the season. And also UCLA beat Washington on Sunday 73-61, so that's good that UCLA is starting to get back on the up and up. Now they have two big challenges, and I use the second challenge as a little bit of a loose term because it's the battle of who's worse between the two. But this Saturday, UCLA hits the road to Tucson to take on Arizona, number 12 Arizona, which beat USC yesterday. And that's perfect segue to go into USC. So life without Isaiah Collier is pretty trash, if you ask me. Last Saturday, USC lost to Colorado 68-58, which is disappointing. I thought USC was over losing to Colorado in men's hoops, but unfortunately that is not the case. And then last night, USC lost to Arizona, number 12 Arizona, 82-67. And it was getting to the point where I wanted to change it to that game after the Lakers were taking on the Dallas Mavericks. But then I was like, no, I'm not changing it to that stuff. So Emmy lost to Arizona. DJ Rodman led the way with 16 kills. Or not 16 kills. Why am I talking about volleyball? So 16 points. DJ Rodman led USC with 16 points, while Kobe Johnson added 12 points. Bronny James had 11 points, and then Ozaya Sellers added 10 points. There were no players that came off the bench that had double digits in terms of points, but 4 out of 5 USC starters were double digits in terms of points. The sad thing is that USC actually shot the ball better than Arizona, it's another one of those tough losses for USC. And just like UCLA, they're 8-10. The only difference is that UCLA is actually a little bit up in terms of the Pac-12 standings. USC is second toward the bottom in terms of the Pac-12 standings. So I am very concerned. So USC is returning to action on Saturday when they take on Arizona State in Tempe? Yeah, Tempe. Yeah, Tucson is Arizona, and Tempe is Arizona State. And then next Saturday, UCLA and USC face one another for the first time this season at the Galen Center, which is good. I'm very surprised USC and UCLA don't play each other on the final day of the Pac-12 play, but it is what it is. But that's basically going to be the toilet bowl, and like I said, it's basically the battle of which team is worse between the two. So that's that for USC and UCLA. Jumping over to San Diego State. So San Diego State unfortunately had a bad game last Saturday against New Mexico as they got pounded 88-70. I was very disappointed in this loss. I get it. New Mexico is a good team, but I expected much better from San Diego State. Fortunately for the Aztecs, they bounced back in a nice fashion, taking down Nevada 71-59 at home. So that's good. San Diego State can definitely win at home. But now they have another challenge on the road on Saturday as they take on Boise State. Then Tuesday, they're back at home against Wyoming. And then the following Tuesday, San Diego State closes out January with a road matchup against Colorado. In the standings, San Diego State is tied for first despite losing to New Mexico. As I want to say Utah State lost. Yeah, Utah State lost earlier in the week. So the door is open for San Diego State to become first in the regular season. And I can definitely see San Diego State making the NCAA tournament. I definitely see San Diego State making the NCAA tournament over USC and UCLA combined. Like, UCLA is kind of a dead man walking, and USC is not too far behind. It is just disgusting. So tonight is actually Pac-12, or not Pac-12, Big West Conference night, as we have a plethora of games happening from UC Santa Barbara, UC Irvine, CSUN, UC Riverside, and Cal Poly. So, looking at the Big West Conference standings, UC San Diego and UC Irvine are both tied for first in the Big West Conference standings. Now, that's big for UC Irvine, just because UC Irvine unfortunately missed out on the NCAA tournament last season, and then UC San Diego, even though they're not eligible to make the the Big West Conference tournament or the NCAA tournament, I think it's pretty cool seeing them in first place. And watch UC San Diego finish first in the regular season Big West Conference standings, and then everyone calls for scrutiny that the Triton's men's basketball team is basically being excluded just because of the whole Division II to Division I rule, which I think is complete baloney sausage. So right behind UC Irvine and UC San Diego is UC Davis, which isn't SoCal. CSUN is in fourth, while UC Santa Barbara and Long Beach State are tied for fifth. And then UC Riverside is seventh, Fullerton is eighth, Bakersfield and Cal Poly are both bringing up the rear, which is not good. But it is what it is, and yeah. So jumping over to the West Coast Conference, and I don't want to talk about the West Coast Conference. Pepperdine plays Gonzaga tonight at home at the Stonehouse Pavilion. I want to say that's the name of Pepperdine's gymnasium. Firestone Fieldhouse. Why did I say Stonehouse Pavilion? So it's the Firestone Fieldhouse. And then San Diego plays Portland, which I would be surprised if San Diego lost. And then LMU plays at San Francisco, which is going to be a tough matchup. So that is pretty much that for the SoCal men's basketball teams, except I have to talk about little old California Baptist, which California Baptist, I do admit they're not fully on my radar, but I still got to give them love because they're SoCal. If I could find them. But I do. Here we are. So California Baptist in their most recent game, they took down Abilene Christian 68-53, and then last Thursday, I don't know if I talked about this, they took down Tarleton State 77-63. The Lancers are back at home against Southern Utah this Saturday, and then next Thursday, California Baptist hits the road to take on UT Rio Grande. The Lancers are nowhere near first place in the Western Athletic Conference. I almost said West Coast Conference, but CBU is not even close to being anywhere near first place in the WAC. So let's just leave it at that. So for NCAA women's basketball, now NCAA women's basketball is so much more better for USC and UCLA. For USC, they actually reaped the benefits of finally getting a win over UCLA. I want to say it's been a while since UCLA had lost to USC, but USC women's hoops finally took down UCLA. They handed the Lady Bruins their first loss of the season, winning this past Sunday at the Galen Center 73-65. And Juju Watkins was all that and then some, as she had 32 points. Half of her points actually came from the free throw line, as she was a perfect 16 for 16. Maybe she can give the Lakers some pointers in terms of the free throw line. I'm just saying. And she actually, according to ESPN Women, or ESPNW, Juju Watkins became the first freshman with 30 points and 10 rebounds against an AP top or Associated Press top 5 opponent over the last 25 seasons. So yeah, Juju Watkins is basically her for USC women's basketball. And the thing that really stood out for USC women's hoops is that they actually won without Rhea Marshall in their lineup, and she's their leading rebounder, as that's big right there. I didn't think that USC would win against UCLA without Rhea Marshall, because remember, UCLA took down USC in the first meeting when both teams were undefeated. Now USC got a little revenge, and with beating UCLA, not only handed the Lady Bruins their first loss of the season, it actually catapulted USC to number 6 in the AP coaches poll, or Associated Press poll. So that's good. That's good. I'm glad USC is on the up and up. Now they get a huge challenge this week, as they are on the road against 2 ranked opponents. Friday, they're on the road against Utah, and then Sunday, they are on the road against number 3 Colorado. And I forgot to mention, Utah is number 20, so that's going to be a rough matchup, as USC is not too far off from first place in the Pac-12 standings, as Colorado is actually leading the conference, the Pac-12. Yeah, go figure. There's actually 4 Pac-12 teams that are in the top 10, as Colorado is number 3, UCLA is number 5, USC is number 6, and Stanford is number 8. And for USC, they are going to be really tested this weekend. I understand this is where you really wish you had more of a better and tougher non-conference play instead of just scheduling locally and your only 2 tough games being against Penn State and Ohio State. Now for UCLA. All right, so UCLA obviously had a bit of an oopsie, but it's nothing for them to panic about. Obviously, they're going to lose at least in some point of the season. If they had gone undefeated, then heck, maybe they could have taken down South Carolina, but no, they couldn't. So UCLA, they're back in action. They too play the Rocky Mountain schools, as Friday they take on Colorado, and then Monday they actually play Utah. The Utah matchup is going to be on ESPN2, while the Colorado-UCLA matchup is going to be on Pac-12. Thanks, Pac-12. Way to put it on... Thank you, NCAA Women's Basketball. Way to put it on a network where most people don't have. I don't have the Pac-12 network, and I probably will not be having the Pac-12 network. So USC and UCLA are both a half a game behind Stanford, which is very encouraging. It just goes to show how tough the Pac-12 is, and I'm very excited to see what USC and UCLA can do, because I hope they can play their cards right, and I hope for USC's sake they don't ride Juju Watkins too much, just because at the end of the UCLA game, she actually had cramps, and she actually went down, and everyone thought she was going down as like tears of joy or a happy moment, but she actually had cramps, and she actually had to be helped up, so that just goes to show how much Juju Watkins really means to USC women's hoops, and if they could get her some help and she's not like having to carry the team night in and night out, that would be so amazing. It also makes me wonder, will Juju Watkins stay the remainder of her 3 seasons? And they even got some love from Cheryl Miller, and I think they got some love from Lisa Leslie. But either way, USC women's basketball is so much more exciting than USC men's basketball, especially since USC men's hoops has one of their top players, Isaiah Collier, out for like 3 to 5 weeks. He already completed 1 week of being out. Let's see how USC handles 3 more weeks at the very least. But for women's hoops, yeah, I'm very excited. And yes, Marcus Lostrate says the OG Cheryl Miller. And I bet you her sister Reggie was not, or her brother Reggie was not too happy. But I digress. All right, but that's that for USC and UCLA. Jumping over to San Diego State. So the Lady Aztecs unfortunately took a tough loss last night to UNLV, number 25 UNLV, as the Aztecs lost to UNLV 67-60, which is obviously tough. And unfortunately for San Diego State, their women's hoops team isn't as fortunate as the men's hoops team, as San Diego State is near the bottom of the Mountain West Conference, as they're only above San Jose State and Utah State. But I guess that's the toughness of the entirety of the West Coast, or not West Coast, the Mountain West Conference. But it is what it is, and you just got to roll with the punches. Now we got to jump on over to CBU, just because CBU is actually relevant in terms of women's basketball, and we love it. The more relevant SoCal teams, the better. So CBU women's hoops unfortunately took a tough loss last Saturday as they lost to Abilene Christian in overtime, 96-93. Man, that's really tough, especially on the road. But Abilene Christian is nowhere near good. So that's only CBU's second loss of the season, but it's their first loss in Western Athletic Conference play, and that's kind of a costly loss because you want to not have too many losses, especially when you face the likes of Stephen F. Austin and GCU, which both GCU men's and women's basketball teams are doing really good. So For CBU, it's a tough loss, but they got to just pick themselves up off the ground and focus on Southern Utah. They'll be back home for that matchup, and they get 2 straight matches where they should probably win, because Southern Utah and UT Rio Grande have a combined 6 wins, and their losses combined are 23. So they shouldn't really get too much of a challenge until they face Stephen F. Austin, and then eventually they'll probably take on UT Arlington and Utah Tech, and then eventually their true challenge is going to be against GCU when they play them on February 17th. But that is that for CBU women's hoops. Unfortunately, it was a tough loss for them, but a loss is only tough if it's dwelled on. So for Big West Conference hoops for tonight, we have ourselves quite a matinee of matches in regards to all the SoCal teams from the Big West. As currently in first place, there's a new team that is in first place in the Big West Conference, and that just so happens to be UC Santa Barbara at 5-1. Hawaii, which was previously undefeated, and yes, I know they're not SoCal, but they're part of a SoCal conference. Hawaii took their first loss of the season, losing to UC Riverside. Woof! That's a toughie. But with UC Santa Barbara in first place, that kind of paves the way for them to hopefully, hence the word hopefully, make the NCAA tournament, or at least get the first seed of the Big West Conference tournament. Cal Poly isn't too far behind of UC Santa Barbara and Hawaii, and then UC Irvine. I expected a little bit better for them, but it is what it is. This is what happens in terms of conference play. And here's hoping that they don't have to cancel games because of not enough players being dressed, like last year where their games were ruled no contest instead of forfeit losses. Like that was unfortunate for like teams like Long Beach State, especially Long Beach State. Long Beach State fans have every right to be angry. But that's that for the Big West Conference. Jumping over to the dreadfulness that is the West Coast Conference, it's no better in the West Coast Conference when it comes to women's hoops, as San Diego plays Pacific at home tonight, and then Pepperdine is on the road against Santa Clara, and then LMU hosts number 17 Gonzaga. And what does Pepperdine, San Diego, and LMU have in common? They're all under 500. Oh my goodness, this is bad. This is really bad. So, you know what else is bad? A weed whacker that's outside of me recording. Thanks, my brother's apartment. On that note, we're going to take ourselves a quick little break. When we come back, we'll have the Lakers and Clippers discussion, and then we'll have Dumb Dumb of the Week. So keep it locked here. You are listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
What's up, sports fans? You're listening to IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your favorite West Coast Wisconsinite, Bernie Bango, and if you're a cheesehead, come listen to my show, Big Cheese Sports, where we road trip around America's Dairyland, previewing, reviewing, predicting, debating, and digging into all that is Wisconsin sports at the college and pro levels. Join me on IE Sports Radio, Sundays at 1 p.m. Central Standard. Bernie out.
Well, what is up, Carolina Nation? This is John Felipe of the Carolina Cast, of course, the podcast of, by, and for the Carolinas, right here on IE Sports, your direct feed for all that is sports. And I'm reminding you to tune in Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern for the latest in Carolina sports, whether it's the Panthers that keep on pounding, the fly natures of the Hornets, the storming Hurricanes, the battle of the Blues with Duke and UNC, the fight of the Clemson Tigers, or the amazing atmosphere of any Carolina college. I'm talking App State, I'm talking ECU. I've got you covered. Once again, tune in for the Carolina Cast with me, John Felipe, Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's good, everyone? It's Drosky, the host of Heart of Texas Sports on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. On this station, we cover everything in the Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area. From we cover the Dallas Cowboys, the Dallas Stars, Dallas Mavericks, Dallas Wings, Texas Rangers, TCU, SMU, we cover it all right here every Wednesdays from 9 to 10 p.m. Central Time. Make sure you stay live with me on the Heart of Texas Sports on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daryl Kinsey Jr., and I'm welcoming you to take another lap with the fastest show on IE Sports Radio. Yes, this is the Extra Mile with me and my co-hosts Christopher Lehman and Michael Ward. We talk everything racing from NASCAR to IndyCar to Formula One to limited hydroplanes, endurance racing, the NHRA, and more. So come join us for an hour of great racing talk and a lot of fun as well on the Extra Mile, Thursdays at 8 p.m. only on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back to the second half of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows. And that last drop that you heard, the Extra Mile drop, that's going to be on at 5 p.m. Pacific time. So as of this recording, that is less than 4 hours from now. So definitely tune in if you haven't already. But let us get back on into the second half of the show. So for those that are, before I continue, I actually do gotta say, for those that are wondering why I'm on a day earlier than normal, well, for starters, I did not plan on being on. If you heard Set Point, then you probably heard me saying that I'm going to do SoCal on Thursday as opposed to Friday. And that is because tomorrow I'm going to be at the First Point Collegiate Challenge in Austin, Texas at the Austin Convention Center. So participating in that are actually two Southern California men's basketball teams from the NCAA men's volleyball program, such as UCLA and USC. So they will be participating. UCLA plays Ohio State and Penn State, while USC plays Ball State and Ohio State. The First Point Collegiate Challenge is going to be on Friday, which is tomorrow as of this recording, and Saturday. So if you haven't got your tickets and you're in the Austin area and you're looking for a great time in terms of watching men's volleyball, definitely go check it out. I'm definitely going to be there as a media member. And if I had known there was going to be a media day, today's actually their media day. So if I had known there was going to be a media day, this is why people got to tell me this in advance, or there's got to be more information in regards to this, then honestly, I would have totally booked my hotel for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, with my checkout day being Sunday. But I digress on that, and hopefully that annoying weed whacker doesn't come back to the window. Otherwise, I'll just have to take a short moment to basically mute myself so we don't have to hear. Yeah, if you could hear it, then it's probably a faint noise. The not so good perks of being in my brother's apartment. But on that note, let's get back on into the show. Let's talk about some Anaheim Ducks and Los Angeles Kings, as the Kings are starting to become less promising by the day. Now, they did snap what was probably a long losing streak, a 7-game losing streak to be exact. That was on Monday, where they took down the Carolina Hurricanes 5-2, but they followed that up the day after, losing to the Dallas Stars 5-1. Ugh. And then on Saturday, they lost to the Detroit Red Wings 5-3. And then, I guess if I didn't mention this before, they lost to the Florida Panthers last Thursday 3-2. So the Kings are back in action tonight when they host the Nashville Predators. Saturday, they host the New York Rangers. And then Monday, they host the San Jose Sharks. And then Wednesday, they host the Buffalo Sabres before hitting the road next Friday to take on the Colorado Avalanche. So in terms of the Kings, they're actually still in the top 4 of the Pacific Division, as only the top 4 teams advance to the playoffs, and they're getting more distant from Vancouver than ever. They're actually 12 points back of first place. And what's worse is that they're actually 1 point ahead of Edmonton, and then they're also only 3 points ahead of Seattle and Calgary. That's extremely concerning. But it's all good. As Jen B pops the chat room, she says, "Hey Teran, sorry, I was on a training call for work. Hope you're having a great show." Thank you, Jen. So now let's move on to the Anaheim Ducks. But before we do that, it has been confirmed that the Los Angeles Chargers have indeed interviewed Mike Vrabel for their head coaching position, and this is courtesy of Daniel Popper, the Los Angeles Chargers beat reporter, and I think it's pretty big right there. So the Chargers are at least getting the big names. They're not just settling on like small names, and my hope is that they actually hire a big name. They need to hire a splash head coach that's going to basically make a big impact for the team. They need to hire a winning coach. If they're going to hire a coordinator, they got to hire Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator from the Detroit Lions. But even he's not going to be interested in interviewing just because the Lions have a big game this weekend. So there you have it. So that is that for that little quick blip of news right there. So now we go to the Ducks, and I hesitated to basically talk about the Ducks, but it is all good. Their most recent game, they lost to the Washington Capitals 2-0, and then on Monday they actually pulled off a pretty good win. They took down the Florida Panthers 5-4 in overtime, which was nice. And then last Saturday they took a bit of a tumble, losing to the Tampa Bay Lightning 5-1. So as per usual, the Ducks have had a sloppy and ugly season. Fortunately, the Ducks have a team that's worse off than them as they take on the San Jose Sharks on Saturday. If the Ducks find some way to lose to the Sharks, I don't know what to do. And then Sunday, the Ducks will return home to take on the New York Rangers. Tuesday, they will host the Buffalo Sabres, which is Patty's team, and she says, "Go Sabres." And then Thursday, the Ducks hit the road to where I'm at, Dallas. Well, I'm in Dallas-Fort Worth. And the Dallas Stars play in Arlington, or Dallas. But either way, the Dallas Stars will host the Anaheim Ducks. So all in all, for the Ducks, that's basically who they've got next and who they played last week. As the Ducks are second to last in the Pacific Division. And, oh my God, I'm just not looking forward to the remainder of the Ducks games. They can at least make it competitive, but ugh. All right, but that's that for the NHL portion of the show. Jumping to the NBA, So the Lakers, this is the days of our Lakers. Not trying to get copyrighted for that just because Fred Rogan had that little thing when he was still on NBC, when he did NBC Sports. But for the Lakers, they've had some good wins. Like I said in the introduction, they had 2 quality wins. But we got to jump back to last Saturday when they hit the road to take on the Utah Jazz. And unfortunately for the Lakers, they just could not find a way to win, as they actually led pretty nicely at halftime. They led by 3 up until the Jazz started to catch fire, and eventually the Lakers lost to the Jazz 132 to 125. Unacceptable loss right there. You can't lose to the Jazz. And it was at that point the Lakers were 19 and 21. So if you remember last year, the Lakers were actually 19 and 21 after their first 40 games. But then they made the playoffs. And we all know that they went to the Western Conference Finals only to get swept away by the Denver Nuggets. But fortunately for the Lakers, they picked up 2 big wins. They took down the Oklahoma City Thunder on Monday, 112 to 105. And they took down the Dallas Mavericks last night, 127 to 110. I was wondering who this Lakers team was, and I was wondering, who the heck is this Lakers team? They look so good. And thankfully for the Lakers' sake, they've got 2 good quality wins. And that's the interesting thing. The Lakers can actually play with some of the better teams, but unfortunately, they seem to have head-scratching losses to teams that I don't think they should be losing to, like the Utah Jazz. So the Lakers are back in action when they host the Brooklyn Nets, and then Sunday they host the Portland Trail Blazers, and then Tuesday they go on the road, in quotation marks, to play the Clippers, and then next Thursday they are hosting the Chicago Bulls. So there's that. There's what's next for the Lakers, and oh my God, the Weed Whacker is getting close. It's getting close back to. Hopefully, it doesn't get close to my brother's apartment building, because if it does, then I'll have to mute it a little, because no one wants to hear a Weed Whacker going off. Anyway, so the Lakers are back in 10th of. Oh great! They're back in 10th of the Western Conference standings. Hang on a minute. Sorry about that. So it was actually a lawnmower. It was like a big old lawnmower that you can sit on and ride around in. So hopefully he doesn't come around here, and he is coming back here. Yeah, he's not leaving anytime soon, so we'll just have to go on another little quick commercial break when hopefully he leaves. So much for me basically finishing this show strong. So when we come back, and hopefully when he's gone, I'll finish up the Lakers-Clippers segment. So you're listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
College football, and do you want to hear a college football show dedicated to all that is college football, including junior college and the CCCAA and the NJCAA, the NAIA, and the NCAA, including Division III, Division II, Division I AA in the FCS, and Division I Single A in the FBS? Well then look no further. Join myself, Larry B., and my colleagues, Mr. H-Town Blake Henley, and Mr. Christian Espinoza, each week during the college football season for the latest in college football on 3 and Out College Edition, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
All right, I think the lawnmower is gone, and hopefully the apartment complex person is basically away from the window. All right, but welcome back to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Apologies if y'all had to hear that and basically had to deal with me pausing in between the Lakers segment and whatnot. Okay, it looks like he's gone. Knock on solid concrete, but all right. But wrapping up with Lakers, they're 10th in the Western Conference, and hopefully for their sake, they can legit basically stay in that contention because it's looking rather concerning, if you ask me. But jumping over to the Clippers had themselves a solid win on Tuesday. They took down the Oklahoma City Thunder 128-117. I also should mention that former Lakers radio play-by-play announcer Spero Dedes called that game on TNT with the Greg Anthony. Always great to hear Spero Dedes call games, and he had such a great career with the Los Angeles Lakers. Now they have John Ireland, who I think he's done a top-notch job. And then, unfortunately for the Clippers, they did have a loss prior to that game against the Thunder, as the Clippers lost to the Minnesota Timberwolves 109-105. But the match before that, or the game before that, they took down the Memphis Grizzlies 128-119. So the Clippers host the Brooklyn Nets on Sunday, and then next up after that, the Clippers host the Lakers, and then Friday, the Clippers will be hitting the road to Canada to take on the Toronto Raptors in kind of what would be Kawhi Leonard's homecoming game after he led them to the NBA championship, their first NBA championship. Well, that is going to do it for the NBA portion. Currently, the Clippers sit at number 4 in the Western Conference, and it's only a matter of time before they actually start figuring things out tenfold, and that's going to be really good. So it's quite astounding that they've been able to turn the tides. They're only 3 games back of Minnesota for that top spot in the Western Conference. And if they can get that, then that would be amazing. The only thing for the Clippers is that they've actually struggled against the top 3 teams in the Western Conference. And beating the Thunder was kind of a breath of fresh air, even though the Thunder did everything in their power to try to get that win. And they actually came back and took a brief lead. Fortunately for the Clippers, they had Paul George, who was making great play after great play. Then you had Kawhi Leonard making great play after great play, and so on and so forth. So all in all for the Clippers, things are looking up for them. All right, but that's going to do it for the Clippers portion of the show. All right, now it's time to get on into Dum Dum of the Week. The Dum Dum of the Week is basically someone or an organization an award I like to give out to a person or an organization that does or says something dumb. No one is safe from this award. I can even give Dum Dum of the Week to the person on the lawnmower who is basically, I wouldn't say disrupting, but no one wants to hear a bzzz noise. But I'm not going to give it to that person. Obviously, he's just trying to do their job, and if I didn't want to basically deal with that, then I maybe should have done this show. Or maybe I should have postponed this show, but I wasn't going to. All right, but I have multiple dum-dums of the week I have to give out to. So the first one actually goes to me. So remember how I basically gave dum-dum of the week to Caleb Williams and how he wanted the Chicago Bears to trade the number 1 pick? Well, apparently I was hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok, and flat out deceived. And I'm just going to say I messed up, and I should have been a little bit more cautious in terms of checking my sources. If it wasn't from Mike Pellisario or Ian Rappaport or anyone of that sort, I shouldn't have believed it to be true. But unfortunately, I was catfished. It was not true, and I don't think it's going to be true because no one's going to want to basically confirm that someone's going to trade away the number 1 pick. This isn't going to be like the Mannings crying up a storm when Eli Manning was about to get drafted by the Chargers, or the then San Diego Chargers, and then he wanted to be traded for Phillip Rivers of the New York Giants. And what could have been Phillip Rivers maybe getting a championship ring, or the Chargers getting a championship ring with Eli Manning, but I digress. So, unfortunately, I was duped into thinking that Caleb Williams was actually going to hope that the Chicago Bears was going to trade away the number 1 pick so he wouldn't get drafted by the Bears. So I can't believe I fell for something like that, and for that, I am this week's Dum Dum of the Week number 1.
So dumb. You are really dumb.
Wait. Say that again?
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
Yeah, I gotta learn to not believe things as they are. As my brother once said, Twitter is not real life. Or in this case, X is not real life. So that's Dum Dum of the Week number 1. So Dum Dum of the Week number 2 is a little bit more understanding. So I don't know if y'all remember back in the day, but the Chicago Bulls were just a juggernaut with the likes of Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen and Dennis Rodman and Steve Kerr. They were just a nightmare for teams. And Michael Jordan had an illustrious career when it came to the Chicago Bulls. And one man that was basically courtesy of the one that did that was Jerry Krause. And here's the thing about Jerry Krause. He was pivotal as the Chicago Bulls. I think he was the GM or the owner of the Bulls. But unfortunately, he was a bit of a D-bag. And he eventually got ran out of town, and everyone hated him just because he was disrespectful to the likes of the Bulls. And he broke up the entirety of the Bulls core in terms of Michael Jordan and whatnot. So this past week, I think it was Friday, when Jerry Krause actually got inducted into the Chicago Bulls Ring of Honor. Now, you're probably thinking, well, why is that a bad thing? So, Jerry Krause unfortunately passed away. Rest in everlasting peace to him. Even though he was a jerk, obviously we have to pay our respects to him. But in his honor, his wife was actually accepted the honor of being inducted into the Ring of Honor. So, you're probably thinking, well, why is that a bad thing, Teran? Well, the thing about that being a bad thing is that Chicago Bulls fans gave her the most negative feedback and negative reception in terms of that Ring of Honor. So the Chicago Bulls fans, when they were inducting Jerry Krause into the Ring of Honor, and his wife was there to basically accept it on his behalf, they booed her. They booed the wife of Jerry Krause. Okay, first and foremost, didn't your moms and dads ever teach you to respect your elders? That's the first thing. Second thing, why are you booing the wife of Jerry Krause? I get it, you're mad with Jerry Krause and how he broke up the big three with Steve Kerr, Michael Jordan, and Scottie Pippen. But that's not any right. They at least got championship rings. And I get it, Jerry Krause was a jerk face, but that's still no reason to boo the wife of Jerry Krause. And God bless her. I can't believe she had to go through that. So I feel so horrible for Jerry Krause's wife, but I will also just say the Chicago Bulls, I can't believe you stooped to that low, booing first of all, an old lady, and second of all, something that she didn't do. I understand your frustrations toward Jerry Krause, but booing her, it's unacceptable. And for that, Chicago Bulls fans who booed at the Ring of Honor ceremony for Jerry Krause, you are this week's Dum Dum of the Week. I don't care who you are. If you booed while you were at the United Airlines Center or whatever the Chicago Bulls play in right now, you should be ashamed of yourself as a Bulls fan. You don't deserve to have that honor of being a Bulls fan. And this is for real. They actually booed Jerry Krause's wife. So shame on you, Bulls fans. To the ones that booed Jerry Krause's wife in the Ring of Honor ceremony, you are Dum Dum of the Week.
So dumb. You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
I don't even think it deserved the Kawhi Leonard laugh. And yes, Patty Back says, I agree, awful. And Jen B says, that was classless. I was so disappointed when I read that. Yeah, this was something that I wish did not come true. I wish this was fake, like the Caleb Williams thing when he said that he was hoping the Chicago Bears would trade the number 1 pick. But, damn fan bases. All right, but next up we have another Dum Dum of the Week. And this one's a little bit funny. I really can't say this is dumb, but I want to know what in Jupiter's Jingle Shoot happened. So if you all were watching the NFL wildcard games, this actually happened on Sunday. There are actually 2 games because Buffalo-Pittsburgh got moved to Monday, which is cool, obviously because of weather reasons. But I will also just say, before the Lions and Rams took on one another, there was another game that happened. There was the Dallas Cowboys hosting the Green Bay Packers. Now, I really want to go with Drewski to this game, and David Crooks said maybe you and Drewski can go to a game with one another, but it was so cold. It was like less than 20 degrees. I've never been in 20-degree weather, and I will also just say it snowed over the weekend. It snowed on Sunday night and eventually Monday morning, and there was concern that my brother wasn't even going to go into work, though he would have had to work from home. But for the Dallas Cowboys, I just got to say, what on earth happened to y'all? How did you mess this game up? They fumbled this game harder than the Jacksonville Jaguars fumbled the AFC South Championship against the Tennessee Titans, and vice versa from last season. But the Dallas Cowboys, and this is no offense to Drewski and any other of my friends that are Dallas Cowboys fans, but how do you lose to a 7 seed? I get it. The Packers have been playing great football as of late. Jordan Love is the truth. But you're the 2 seed. No 7 seed had been able to win a playoff game until the moment where the Green Bay Packers rolled into AT&T Stadium and they wound up beating the Dallas Cowboys bad. And don't even say the final score was a lot closer. Don't even say that 16 points is not a blowout. It was decided in the fourth quarter. The Cowboys just scored 2 garbage time touchdowns. But I'm just going to say this. You got to be some sort of bad to basically lose at home. And remember, the Cowboys had won 16 straight home games prior to that debacle. And this was dating back to last season. But unfortunately for the Cowboys, they pooped the bed. They wound up losing to the 7 seed. They became the first team to lose to a 7 seed. And it was at that point they were actually down 27-0. And believe it or not, it was actually the day the Cowboys and Packers played one another, it was actually the 1-year anniversary of the Chargers blowing a 27-0 lead. And I was thinking, I wonder if the Packers are going to blow a 27-0 lead to the Cowboys. And unfortunately for the Cowboys, the Packers weren't going to blow no 27-0 lead because they're not the Chargers. So it's disappointing because I was hoping to go to... I should have gone to that game with my boy Drewski, and honestly, I wish... if I were up to me, I would have maybe reached out to him and said, hey, do you got an extra ticket for me to go with you? But unfortunately, I didn't. I had to hesitate. So it's just so disappointing. But what else is disappointing? The Cowboys losing to a 7 seed. They became the first team to lose to a 7 seed, and they lost at home. They were undefeated at home this regular season and last year. And you mean to tell me the Cowboys lost at home? You have to be some sort of terrible to do that. But all I gotta say is this, and before I do it, I just gotta say, Stephen A. Smith dunked all over Cowboys fans, and he dunked on the Dallas Cowboys on First Take the day after the Cowboys got drubbed by the Green Bay Packers. But all I gotta say is this, how about them Cowboys? And the Cowboys were so bad, Jimmy Johnson had to basically have a little bit of a halftime speech on Fox Sports or Fox Sports Network or wherever it's on Fox Sports, yeah. Bottom line is this, the Cowboys disappointed, and unfortunately, I'm just so disappointed. I really was looking forward to possibly, hence the word possibly, attending a game with Drewski, but unfortunately, I'm just going to have to find something else to do with Drewski. Maybe he and I and my brother can go to a Dallas Mavericks game or maybe a Dallas Stars game. But regardless, this is disappointing. And for you, Dallas Cowboys, it's not your year, but you get some sort of award. You get the Dum-Dum of the Week.
So dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
All All right, but that is that for the Dum Dum Week. But now I have another award. I have to give out the No-No of the Week. So I was very close to wanting to have this as Dum Dum of the Week, but this is a No-No of the Week. So, okay, so where I was Saturday, I was basically at an arcade, and my brother actually went to a concert that was actually nearby the arcade, and I was playing video games because those arcade games were free, and it was awesome sauce. And what I want to know is this, and God bless my brother, he thought of me when he was like, "Are you getting hungry?" And then I said, "Sure, I would like to have something." And I actually wanted to get a hot dog, but he said he went to Chick-fil-A. So I was really excited that he was going to get Chick-fil-A. And yes, there are Chick-fil-A's in Dallas-Fort Worth. However, when he came back with the Chick-fil-A, normally you get like a burger, or not a burger, a sandwich, a chicken sandwich with like them waffle fries. And I was looking forward to having at least a chicken sandwich. But when he came back, and I kind of get why he did this, he came back, but instead of getting me a chicken sandwich, he got me a cup of chicken noodle soup. Okay, in his defense, it was extremely cold, and I totally get it. You get chicken noodle soup, hearty meal to basically warm you up. But I have never seen anybody go to Chick-fil-A to get chicken noodle soup. I get it. There's chicken in it. But you don't go to Chick-fil-A for chicken noodle soup. It doesn't make any sense. I was a tad disappointed. But if it wasn't for my brother getting me anything, I would have basically flipped out. Now, I am grateful that he got me food, and this is why he doesn't get Dum Dum of the Week. But you go to Chick-fil-A for chicken sandwiches, for the most part. If not waffle fries. If not the milkshakes. You don't go for chicken noodle soup. If you go to that, you go to like maybe Soup Plantation or anything that has soup. But oh my god. And Adam Clark says their soup is kind of tasty. And yeah, I actually did like the soup. It was actually pretty good. And thankfully he didn't rub it in my face, and he got chicken noodle soup as well. But I will just say, you kind of go to Chick-fil-A for the most part to get chicken sandwiches, not chicken noodle soup. But I do appreciate him thinking of me, and he's been a great host when I've been here at Dallas-Fort Worth. But that's a big no-no. You don't get chicken noodle soup. Now, if I was having this outside, I can understand. But this better not have cost a whole lot. But I am grateful. But once again, I am grateful that he got me something to eat. I just wasn't expecting chicken noodle soup from Chick-fil-A. But Adam Karnick does make a good point. The soup is kind of tasty, and that soup was pretty good, and I ate the whole thing. So I'll give my brother the benefit of the doubt. He thought of me when he got me chicken noodle soup. But Chick-fil-A, you go for chicken sandwiches, not chicken noodle soup. But again, it was really cold, and I get him thinking of me. But man, you can't just get me. You can't just do that to me, man. That's like getting rickrolled. So I kind of have to give my brother the no-no of the week instead of the dum-dum of the week, just because he thought of me, but I didn't think it was. He kind of missed the mark.
No. One year deal. No. 19 million. 1 year.
But I do appreciate him for getting that for me, and it really hit the spot. And thankfully, I didn't have to. But what he could have done a little bit better was he could have made sure I wasn't watching a film, which was like a horror comedy film, which I'm not going to get into just because I don't want to freak any of my listeners out if you're listening. But on that note, that is going to do it for this week's episode of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Ladies and gentlemen, it's high time for me to get on out of here, because I got to pack up before tomorrow. Yeah, dig. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. I really do appreciate everybody tuning in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen at any time, any place, anywhere, I appreciate you. Big shout out to the chat room, Patty Bax, Jen B, Adam Karnick, Marcus Losgreat, Larry B, and Ralph Police for all tuning in. I really do appreciate everybody tuning in. I should be back on my normal time and day next week. I assure you that nothing is going to basically get in my way. I will be back from Austin on Sunday, and I should be doing Set Point on Monday as well to talk about the First Point Collegiate Challenge. But if you're in the Austin area, definitely try to see me, especially if you're a volleyball fan, and I will be glad to meet up with you. But for everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have yourself a great rest of the weekend. Although the Rams are eliminated, you still have other SoCal sports you can watch, such as the Lakers and the Clippers, and USC and UCLA women's hoops, and maybe some Big West Conference hoops action on ESPN+. I will see you all on Monday for Set Point, and I will see you, if you're in the Austin area, tomorrow at the First Point Collegiate Challenge. Have a great weekend, everybody, and remember, SoCal is for SoCal. Peace!